Alright, we're talking about solving absolute value equations today. And if you want an introduction to absolute value, there's another video, I think it's called Introduction to Absolute Value. There's another video that leads up to this one, so you can look for that one and help you out to understand this one if this one's too difficult, so you can go backwards. Alright, so we're talking about solving absolute value equations. So let's talk about some definitions first, because all of mathematics is built off of these really precise definitions. So first of all, what does absolute value mean? The absolute value of a number is its distance from 0. So for example, the absolute value of 4 is 4 because 4 is 4 units away from 0. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3 because negative 3 is 3 units away from 0. This was all covered in that previous video that I referred to. So if we're going to be solving, then we should also know what solve means. Well, solve means to find the value of the variable that makes a statement true. So here's a statement right here. This says the absolute value of a number is equal to 3, right? And if you want to solve it, what that means is find the value of the variable that makes the statement true. Well, a lot of these absolute value equations have more than one value of the variable that makes the statement true. So it's possible in these cases, in these types of statements, that we could get more than one solution. All right, let's look at this first example. So x is a variable. A variable is a letter that represents a number. So here we have a number, an unknown number. But what we do know about it, though, is its distance from 0. These vertical bars are what we use to denote the absolute value, distance from 0. We know that the distance from 0 of this unknown number is 3. Well, if you think about it, what does that mean? Where could this number be, right? If its distance from 0 is 3, then that means that it can only be two places. Either it could be at 3, or it could be at negative 3. So either this unknown number is here, or it's here. That's why this statement has two solutions. Either x is equal to 3, or, x is equal to negative 3, or x is equal to 3. Okay, so let's start complicating things a bit more. You can see what we're working towards, these more complicated statements. Okay, let's have a look at example 2. Solve, so find the value of the variable that makes the statement true. Here's an unknown number. What this is telling us is that its distance from 0 is equal to negative 2. And right when you get to that point, you should be a little concerned, because this is telling you that the distance between two things is negative 2, and this doesn't make sense. There is no value of this variable that you could ever use to make this statement true. There is no value of z that will make this statement true. Think about it. If z is 2, its distance from 0 is 2, not negative 2. And if z is negative 2, its distance from 0 is still 2, it's not negative 2. So this statement has no solution. No solutions. There's no value of z that makes this statement true. Then you might be looking at example 3 and thinking, okay, well, there's a negative value right there, so maybe this statement has no solutions either. But this one actually does, and let's talk about why. So you can see the statements are becoming more complicated, but still, the solving comes from the definition of what absolute value is. So here we have x plus 3. Well, what is that? Well, x is an unknown number, and if you add 3 to it, you still have an unknown number. So this part that I'm circling right here is a number. We just don't know what it is. And the statement is complicated because this unknown number, its distance from 0, if you take 5 away from that, you get negative 1. It's too much. It's too much to keep inside of your head. So if there was a way maybe that we could manipulate this statement, rearrange some things a little bit so that the statement was easier for us to understand, it would make the solving part a lot easier. And there is a way. If we add 5 to both sides of this statement, then we have a statement that's much more comprehensible. Now we'll have this. Absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 4. Okay? Now let's reinterpret the meaning of this. X plus 3 is a number. Its distance from 0 is 4. Okay, that I can keep in my head. Before it was too complicated, but that I can keep in my head. So x plus 3 is a number. It's 4 units away from 0. So where could this number be? Where could this number be, x plus 3? Well, if it's 4 units away from 0, it can only be in two places. Either it's here at 4, that's where x plus 3 is, or it's over here at negative 4. That's where x plus 3 is. And this is how we're going to find out that this statement has two solutions. Either x plus 3 is negative 4, or x plus 3 is 4. And what we end up with is two one-step equations. So we have either x plus 3 is equal to negative 4, or x plus 3 is equal to 4. Now, solving one-step statements, right? We're just going to subtract 3 from both sides of this equation, and subtract 3 from both sides of this equation to find our solutions. So either we have x is equal to negative 7, or x is equal to 1. Okay, and finally, this is about as complicated as you could make an absolute value statement. It says x minus 3 is a number. Its distance from 0, if you multiply that by 2, and then add 3 to it, you get 13. It's too much to keep in your head. We need to simplify the statement. We need to manipulate it so that it's easier for us to comprehend. So the idea here is that we're getting to is, step 1 should be isolate the absolute value so that we can comprehend the statement. And then you can set up your two equations, if it's possible. Okay, so let's manipulate, right? So subtract 3 from both sides. We're going to isolate this absolute value. We'll have 2 times the absolute value of x minus 3 equals 10. And then to deal with this 2 right here, we can use division. So that this one becomes a 1. And then now we have something that we can understand. The absolute value of this number, or its distance from 0, is equal to 5. This I can understand. I can keep this in my head. Okay, so if its distance from 0 is 5, then this number, x minus 3, it can either be at 5, or it could be at negative 5. And now once again we have two one-step equations that make some sense. So either x minus 3 is equal to negative 5, or x minus 3 is equal to 5. And then we're just solving these by adding 3 to both sides. And what we'll come up with is x is equal to negative 2, or x is equal to 8. Okay, end of the story for today.